All right, so for problem number 6, we're going to start by adding f plus g. So we'll start with f. And then we'll add g. And because the x plus 5 is under the square root, there is no simplifying we can do here, so this is already our answer. Now for the domain, we need to look for square roots, denominators, or square roots in the denominator. Here we have a square root. So remember, with the square root, we cannot have negatives under the square root, so we're going to take x plus 5 and set it greater than or equal to 0, because it needs to be positive or 0. Subtract 5 from both sides, and we get x is greater than or equal to negative 5. So that will be our domain. Next one, we're doing f minus g. So we're going to take f, add g, subtract g. And now we do have to subtract the whole thing for g, so we want to make sure to put parentheses around it. So we will need to distribute that negative or that invisible negative 1 in the front. So this will be the square root of x plus 5 minus x plus 3. That'll be our answer for what f minus g is. Now we need to look at the domain of this one. This one has the square root, no denominator, no square root in the denominator, so we're going to take what's under the square root, set it greater than or equal to 0 because it needs to be positive or 0. Subtract 5 from both sides, and we get x is greater than or equal to negative 5. So the same answer as the previous one because it's still the same domain issue as the radical. And then for the next one, we're going to do f times g. So we'll start with f. Then we'll multiply by g. We need to multiply by the whole thing, x minus 3. Okay? You can leave it like this. That's fine if it counts as an answer. You might sometimes see people distribute, though. They'll do x square root of x plus 5 times x, and then minus 3 times the square root of x plus 5. But you don't have to do that if you don't want to. You can just leave it like this. So they're just doing this times this and this times this. But this is an okay answer. And then we need to look for our domain for denominators, square roots or square roots in the denominator. We see square root of x plus 5 again, so we can take x plus 5, set it greater than or equal to 0. We've already done that for these last 3, so we know that's going to be x is greater than or equal to negative 5. And lastly, we need to do, this one is actually g divided by f. So we're going to do g in the top, f in the bottom, there's no simplifying we can do, so that's just our answer for g divided by f. Now for the domain, we need to look for square roots, denominators, or square roots in the denominator. And here we have a square root in the denominator. So we're going to take what's under the square root and set it greater than 0. Because we can't have a 0 in the denominator, so we don't want it to be equal to 0. But we also can't have negatives. So now we just do greater than 0. So we'll subtract 5. And this one will be x is greater than negative 5. So this one's a little bit different than the other 3 because it does not have the equal to on the bottom. Okay? It's just greater than negative 5. That's important that this one is different than those 3. And it's because the square root is in the denominator.